Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
All I gotta say is, who that? Hey, what's going on, Who That Nation? It is yours truly, Timothy J. Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. I really do appreciate your time. Come on in. And as you come in, hit that like button. And as you come in, hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate that. On this edition, we're going to be talking about the Saints and some of the moves that have been made or lack thereof. The Saints continuing to kind of stay still when it comes to their roster, keeping some of the same guys that were on the team last season. Is this what needs to be done? Is it a smart move or is it a mistake? We're going to be talking about that and also breaking down some of the contracts extensions that took place. I already talked a little bit about Chase Young, but haven't talked about Justin Reed, the new acquisition for the New Orleans Saints coming over from the Chiefs. Had a really good season, definitely an upgrade in the secondary, as well as some other players that end up getting their contracts restructured. But shouts out to everybody in the chat. Shouts out to everybody at home, at work, on the go, wherever you are, wherever you may be. I also want to let everybody know that immediately following this episode, this stream, we will be going over to Bleacher Report to talk a little bit more about what we're going to be discussing on this episode. Saints Talk with Timothy J. Jones. I'll make sure before this show is all said and done that I put the link inside of the chat. As a matter of fact, I'll just go ahead and do that right now, and I'll do it again towards the end of the show. That's going to take place at 7 p.m. Eastern on Bleacher Report. But let's go ahead and get into it, man. Let's go ahead and get into it because I'm pretty sure a lot of people want to talk about this. And, I've seen some people, tackle this topic, a lot of fluff, from, in my opinion, not everybody, but y'all know what it is, man. Look, some of the moves that the New Orleans Saints have made were good moves. Some of them I can understand. They make a lot of sense. Devon Godshaw coming over from New England Patriots. You're running a 3-4 defense. You need somebody that's a big, large human being to kind of play the nose. That makes sense. You lose Will Harris to the Commanders, who had a really good, solid season. Definitely, was a big help to that secondary at the safety position. He leaves. You replace him with Justin Reed. To me, that is indeed an upgrade. So that makes sense. Chase Young, to me, it made sense him coming back. The fact that I can see Chase Young doing some things in a 3-4 defense and honestly playing a little bit more free, probably be a little bit more disruptive. So I can understand that. But restructuring deals, guys like Nathan Shepard and Colin Saunders, I don't necessarily agree with some of those decisions. Not that I have anything against those gentlemen, talented guys, but at the end of the day, you have to look at where you are as a team. The Saints were one of the worst run defenses in all of the NFL last season. They were terrible. Couldn't stop the run, right? Because if their mama was on the line, like, stop the run or we're going to take your mama. You know what I'm saying? And somebody's mama is no longer with us. That's how bad that run defense was. And I just think that by running it back with the same usual suspects, it just, to me, it's as if the Saints are saying there was nothing wrong with this team. That's the reason why I created that thumbnail. You know, I don't see nothing wrong. I mean, it doesn't seem like Mickey Loomis really looks at this roster and sees that the roster was the problem. Yeah, I guess, you know, this was one of those situations where he felt as if the coaches were the problem, which we don't believe that, because we know that he was very upset when Gail Benson and Dennis Lauscher decided to force his hand and have him fire Dennis Allen. So I'm just wondering, like, what in the world is Mickey Loomis doing? And I also want the New Orleans Saints organization to take a really close look at this situation. Some of you that checked out the NFC South Roundtable last night, you kind of know where I'm going with this. If not, then, you know, I came on towards the end of the show. Shouts out to New York Giants Sports Illustrated. I was interviewing with them, you know, while the show was going on. I was still able to come in towards the end and give my point. But this is what I'm trying to say. I hope that the New Orleans Saints organization is taking a really good look, because what Mickey Loomis is telling everybody is he doesn't see anything wrong with the roster. And this has been the issue with the New Orleans Saints, not being willing to call a spade, and it has bit them in the behind for the last couple of years. I mean, it's just the truth. Like, the Saints had ample opportunities to hit the reset button when it comes to this football team. There were moments in which the Saints organization could have hit that reset button and Saints fans would have been okay with it. For example, this season, if the Saints didn't end up being what everybody expect for them to be in 2025, I don't think anybody would have got upset, because I think everyone would understand that this team is finally doing something that we all hope that they would do, and that is try to rebuild this football team. You would think that you would learn your lesson after you felt like your team was going to be a playoff contender for years to come when Sean Payton decided to step down and Drew Brees retired. Nope. What do the Saints do? They do the same thing. They feel like they're in the running. They feel like they're rounding the corner. They feel like they're close. And I'm not saying that these guys are terrible. I don't think that the players that they have on the team are terrible. I just think that when you look at this squad, you got a lot of guys that are getting up there in age. And the NFL is a young man's game. I mean, it's a fact. Like, don't get mad at me for saying something that is constantly said over and over again. And things that are proven to us over and over again. It's a young man's game. You have to make sure that you have a good combination of young, hungry, athletic players with a combination of seasoned veterans that can kind of help these young guys get acclimated from the college ranks to the pros, to teach them, and they can learn from the veterans how to be pros. But you don't keep on holding on to 30-something-year-old players and expecting for you to be able to generate success. I just don't understand that. And, you know, I just feel like the New Orleans Saints organization needs to look at this and realize that Mickey Loomis just refuses to conform, refuses to change his ways, and things that are costing this team a lot of hardship, man. Kicking a can down the road when it comes to contracts. You know, not because you're doing this, you're not able to really go out here and spend money on talented players in free agency, not breaking the bank, but guys that can come in and be difference makers right away. And it's going to be a reoccurring thing. And the fact that he has really done nothing when it comes to like really resetting this roster, he's basically telling you that he's okay with it. So if he's okay with it, if the Saints don't end up being better than they were last year, and I'm not talking about, like they don't go 5-12, they go 6-11. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a significant change. If there is not a significant change based on the decisions that Mickey Loomis is making, I think the Saints organization need to take a close look at him as the general manager. I feel like that's only fair. I'm not trying to beat up on Mickey Loomis. This is just reality. If you have a job and your job is to make sure that certain practices are taking place, and you notice that over the years, things aren't on the up and up. Any job, you are going to get called into upper management's office, and you're going to have to explain yourself. And to me, I just feel like Mickey Loomis has conceded, based on these decisions so far, that the main issue that has been going on with this football team has been the injuries. If they were not as decimated as most teams were last season, then they probably would have won the division. I don't know if that's the case. You can't just look at 2 games at the beginning of the season when the entire NFL is trying to figure it out and think to yourself, man, we were really close. Well, if you looked at the Philadelphia Eagles at the beginning of the season last year, you wouldn't expect for them to hit the ground running and turn into that Super Bowl contender and Super Bowl champion that they end up being. People have to figure things out sometimes. Coaches, players, they have to get on the same page, and eventually Philadelphia did. I'm just wondering, like, these are the same guys that you've been rocking with for X amount of years now, and there's been no playoff prosperity. So you have to wonder, why are you keep running it back? Is it the fact that you feel like, you want to keep the nucleus, the same nucleus of players, the same camaraderie? Or maybe it's just the fact that for a fact that you screwed up the cap so badly that re-signing these guys, even though some of them you might need to consider letting go, you can't, because the roster and the salary cap will not be able to allow you to do so. I'm just saying, like, a lot of these decisions, it seemed like they kind of force your hand. Like, I don't know if Derek Carr is the quarterback in 2025, if you didn't need him to restructure in order for you to be in cap compliance. So I'm just saying, like, okay, if we're okay with running it back, I just want the Saints organization as a staff, organization, and crew to acknowledge what Mickey Loomis is doing, and I want them to evaluate him accordingly. And I want Mickey Loomis to evaluate himself accordingly. Because once again, a lot of these players that you have brung back are some of the same players that have been a part of this team where they have not been able to reach their goal. So I feel like that's fair. I don't feel like I'm beating up on anybody. I feel like that's a fair assessment. If you don't feel like anything is wrong for the most part, and we're only basically replacing players that, because we lost them, and, we feel like these players on our team that we re-sign have value and it can help us win, then, if it doesn't pan out, then I feel like some heads need to roll. But let me go ahead and get into the comments. Thank you all so much for being here. I'll go ahead and read some and we'll take it from there. Let's see. We need another nose tackle, so I guess we can remove the restriction and cut Bink loose at all the buffets in the city so he can put his weight on. Well, I mean, look, Colin Sanders already a large human being. Like, man, I don't think he need to roll up to anybody's buffet to be physically imposing. I mean, he's a short, stocky guy, which it makes it funny, when you look at him, because he about as wide as a refrigerator, but he's not the tallest guy in the world. But we know that Bink is extremely athletic. I know that his athleticism, his ability will be able to be on full display in a 3-4. I'm just concerned about this run defense, man. Bringing back the guys that they were responsible. I mean, I hate to say it like this, but it's true. It's the guys that were responsible for the Saints having the 31st, ranked 31st when it comes to run defense. So, I mean, you got to take that into consideration. TJ, the only way the Juwan Johnson move makes sense is if they use him out wide a lot more as a wide receiver, tight end, big body receiver hybrid. If not, I don't see how you justify all that money. I'm gonna say this, man. Juwan Johnson, he has received the Brandon Coleman treatment for I don't know how long. Like, and what I mean by Brandon Coleman, for those that may have forgot who Brandon Coleman was a 6'4", 6'5" wide receiver out of Rutgers. And every single year we were here at training camp how Brandon Coleman is just wrecking shop, and he's poised to make he's poised to have a breakout year. Every single year you see highlights of Brandon Coleman making plays in practice, and then when it's time to play the game, it's like this dude nowhere to be found. And I feel the same way when it comes to Juwan Johnson. Like, Juwan Johnson, to me, decent tight end, but definitely not worth $30 million. Some people may not want to admit that, but I will. He's not worth it. And I don't know why the Saints decided that to bring him back. Some people would think that once again, this is one of those situations where it's better to re-sign him and bring him back because it will hurt you cap-wise. So did the Saints end up doing this because they felt like there was some value there, or did they do it in order for them to save themselves when it comes to the cap? I'm just wondering, because to me, the money just don't fit. I ain't trying to pound nobody's pockets. Like, congratulations to him as a human being. From what I've seen out of Juwan Johnson, I mean, it's easy to root for a guy when you know all the things that him and his wife and all that, that they have been through is well documented. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about production on the field. Juwan Johnson, to me, has never been that breakout guy. I mean, a lot of his production, a lot of his targets came from, I mean, you basically was throwing to practice squad guys and guys that were on the team 2 weeks ago before you even played in the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, they weren't even on a team. 2 weeks, you know what I'm saying? They probably was on a team. There was a saying that I think that, I don't know if it was Tom Pelissero or one of the insiders. They were at the Green Bay game, and they went up to one of the coaches for the Saints, and they asked how Spencer Rattler was doing. He's like, great. You're like, other than the fact that he's about to meet his wide receivers tonight. So this is the type of things that the Saints had to deal with last season, which caused Juwan Johnson to be that primary target. And even with his numbers, like on his in his best year, it still don't equal to $30 million. I seen Evan Ingram today get signed by the Broncos, and I want to say he got 20. And if you would ask me, if you had a choice to bring in Evan Ingram or re-sign Juwan Johnson, I'm rolling with Evan Ingram. And also, there's a lot of talented tight ends in his draft. I mean, you got Mason Taylor you can probably get late second, early third. There's Tyler Warren that's out there that should be like, the first tight end taken off the board. So you had an opportunity to possibly draft a tight end that can, be that blocking tight end. Something that Juwan Johnson is not very good at. I mean, so I just didn't understand that. That didn't make any sense to me. That's why I'm just wondering, like, are some of these extensions like some type of lifetime achievement award, like a humanitarian award, like, oh, we just like you, we like the way that you conduct yourself and carry yourself, so here's a contract extension. All I'm saying is that it just don't fit. Like, I'm happy the man got his bread, but at the end of the day, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't like, or is Juwan Johnson about to be 1,000-yard tight end? It is Kellen Moore about to make this dude into the next Dallas Goedert, next Dalton Schultz. Like, is he going to do that? Now, if he's doing that, then by all means. But I don't know, man. I mean, this guy's been on the team for I don't know how long, and people have been talking about potential, and they've been talking about, oh, he going to do this, he going to do that, and it hasn't translated to the field the way that people expect it to be. 1 second. All right. Sorry about that. Talking to the Pac-Man. Didn't want him to be on camera. He having a little allergy issue. So he up here asking me about tissue, man, so he can wipe his nose. I'm like, can't be on camera, man. Got to come correct. But let me go ahead and scroll down a little bit. Let's see. Loomis going to run this franchise into the ground, trying to prove a point to Sean, while Sean over in Denver giving him a class on how to build a roster and how to win no matter what. Yeah, I mean, all I'm saying is you gotta come to grips if this thing don't work out this season. And look, I wouldn't be saying this. I promise you, I would not be saying this if some of the moves didn't indicate that Mickey Loomis really believes that injuries played a huge role in why the Saints weren't successful. It played a role, but it wasn't the main issue. And I just think that you need to, I feel like this. You need to adjust accordingly. if Mickey Loomis would have came in with the type of energy that we thought that he might have, which is hitting a reset button, then I think I'd be a little bit more lax with my take when it comes to Mickey Loomis. I'm like, okay, man, I don't expect for the Saints to do too much of anything this season. I mean, it's, they're hitting the reset button. Seem like they're trying to, beef up the roster, they're trying to change some things over. I would come with that type of energy. But at the same time, like, when you're bringing back the same usual suspects, it doesn't matter if you transitioning from a 4-3 to a 3-4. You are that comfortable with the players that you have on the team. If you come in with that type of energy, you have basically told everybody, you have basically conceded and said that you don't see anything wrong with the team. We just had some bad luck. So this year, it's going to be a whole lot better now that guys are healthy. So if that's the case, evaluate him accordingly. So if the Saints don't end up making a postseason, if the Saints end up winning 6 or 7 games, then guess what? Dennis Lauscher, Gail Benson need to have a meeting, and they need to consider asking Mickey Loomis to step down. Or, like you did with Dennis Allen, force his hand and basically force him out of there. Keep him upstairs with y'all. Plain and simple. Like, what more do you need to see? This is like, if we're going to talk business, we're going to talk business. If we're going to pretend like, these things ain't the way they supposed to be, then we wasting time. In any business, it is about results. Not looking past them, it's about results. If you have a track record, I don't care if you do have a track record that's good. It's about what have you done for me lately in the business world. So over the last 4 going into 5 years, if the Saints do not make the postseason, if the Saints don't win double-digit games, if the Saints are not in contention to win the division, if they're not doing that, then any other general manager around the National Football League would be gone. So what makes him different? And if we're gonna be running an organization like that, then I don't think Saints fans need to be too bothered by the things that they actually see, because it seems like to me that the Saints are conceding that they're okay with just being bottom of the barrel. That's all I'm saying. I'm not talking about from a coaching perspective. Like, I'm looking at Kellen Moore and his coaching staff completely different than what I'm looking at with Mickey Loomis, because he is the one that is giving these guys the ingredients to cook with. So if you're on this thing, you know what I'm saying, like not giving people the proper ingredients in order for them to cook, I can't too much blame the person that's actually cooking this dish here. He has put together this team. Those guys' job is to develop the players and coach them. So if it don't pan out, I'm sorry, man. They need to have a conversation, because you cannot keep on doing the same thing over and over again expecting a different result. You had one of the biggest erasers in Sean Payton and Drew Brees. Anything that you put out there on the field, they'll make it work. It doesn't always work like that, especially if you don't have a generational quarterback or a quarterback that's a franchise guy and a coach that is really, really good. If you have that combination, then I guarantee you, we would not be looking at the imperfections of Mickey Loomis and evaluating them the way that we are right now. He doesn't have that anymore. So, like I said, if he would have came out and basically hit the reset button and it was a clear indicator that he was hitting the reset button, then I guarantee you I wouldn't be talking like this. But bringing back the same usual suspect, that's telling me that you're okay with the state of the Saints, no pun intended. Alfred, thank you very much for the $4.99. Says the moves were made ain't enough for a team that's saying they want to compete. Well, it depends on who you're talking to. Like, Alfred, maybe in your eyes and my eyes and Saints fans' eyes, it indicates as if, they ain't trying to compete, because we're looking at it like these are the same individuals that you'd have had on your squad and y'all still have fell short, right? I mean, but to him, it might be that. I don't know, man. I mean, it played a role. I'm not going to sit up here and pretend like injuries didn't play a role in why the Saints couldn't find success more often than not in 2024. But I'm not going to say that's the only reason. The main reason is the fact that Mickey Loomis decided, just like he's doing right now, to keep things the way that they were. Didn't matter if Sean Payton was gone. We have the same group of coaches. It shouldn't matter. Like it doesn't matter that Sean Payton is gone. We have the coaches. Like to me, if the New Orleans Saints would have been that much better than they were when Sean Payton was there, then I would wonder how important was Sean Payton. We're finding out how important he was. We're seeing how important Drew Brees was. So, like I said, people that don't learn from their history are doomed to repeat it. And it seems like the Saints are not learning from their history. It's like he continues to double down, triple down, quadruple down on it. And it's like, okay, man, I understand that you like the guys and all that, but sometimes you got to take a really good look at yourself, really good look in the mirror and wondering like, man, maybe there's some things that I do need to change. It's a business, man. We look around the National Football League and we see players that are cornerstone guys for their squad, head scratchers to their fan base. Why would they get rid of that guy? It's because they're trying to make sure that they set themselves up for success in the future. Like sometimes, man, you got to take a step back, fold your arms and take a look. You know what I'm saying? What am I doing here? You know what I'm saying? Like you ever tried to hang a picture on the wall? You ever tried to do that? Try to hang a picture on the wall and, you know, you have to step back to make sure that it's centered correctly. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to step back, fold your arms. Is it close? Let me go out here and get the measure. Let me go out here and, you know, get the leveler. Let me make sure that it's level. Sometimes you got to take a step back. It's like, man, okay, man, I'm confident that this picture hung straight. And it's like somebody come right behind you and be like, man, pitch frame look a little crooked, man. You got to learn, man. You got to be able to step back and take a look. And it like I said, it's not an indictment on these players. I'm not trying to take shots at these players, but I'm just saying, like you are going into a new frontier, new head coach, new defensive coordinator that has a different philosophy from the defensive coordinator / head coach that you had. Ed, thank you very much for the 499. Says the shoulders blowing it up with Breeze retired. Robin Peter to pay Paul. Can't up with them. Gross mismanagement. Yeah, I mean, that's not going to give you sustainable success. That's not, man. That's not going to give you sustainable success. It's just not. Like you'll probably win, you know, maybe 1 or 2 seasons, but it's not going to. The wheels are not going to keep on turning. The Saints signing these guys, bringing them back. The next step needs to be creating depth through the draft. Creating depth, getting key players at certain positions that your new coaching staff can develop, they can build something with, and then you can, you know, kind of, you know, get yourself back on track. But I'm just saying, man, when you just kicking a can down the road, when you just constantly kicking a can down the road, and you're going to have guys that are going to be on the books way after they're gone, it makes it hard. Like, so if you end up having a bomb draft, you know, like say you have a really good draft, you have like a really, really, really good draft. And let's just say you end up having something like 2017. Round like the, you know, 4th, 5th year of those guys' contracts, man, you're going to be wondering to yourself, like, dang, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want to bring these guys back, but can I? I just want them to get away from that, man. I'm like, I know people don't want to hear this, but sometimes you have to take a step back. I think about like the Houston Texans, right? You look at the Houston Texans, the way that they were structured with Lovie Smith, right? They went out there, didn't have the best season in the world, but the following season, they drafted C.J. Stroud. They got Will Anderson, and they've been to the playoffs ever since. You got your cornerstone guy on defense, your cornerstone guy on offense. Now you can go out there and be a contender. Now you can run the South in the AFC. You can do that. The last couple of years, the Houston Texans have been to the divisional round of the playoffs in back-to-back seasons. That doesn't happen if, they didn't feel like they needed to hit the reset button. They got rid of Deshaun Watson. They took it on the chin. They bounced back the next season, and now they have themselves a future. So I don't know, man. I get it. I get that you're trying to compete. I get that you're trying to win, but at the same time, man, like, you have to address this cap situation eventually. Pushing it and kicking it down the road and not generating the success and the results that you need in the process is just makes it worse. Just makes it worse, man. And, like I said, I'm not trying to beat up on the squad, but that's just the truth. TJ, what are the rules for comp picks? Does anybody actually know? I mean, they got like different type of like things that that takes place, for compensatory picks and stuff like that. I mean, I know there's one, like, if let's just say if you have a minority coach or something like that, and he ends up like getting promoted to a certain position, like, you'll get a comp pick for that. And there's other like different different things that are in place. It's certain rules and regulations that a team may have followed or, may have happened for them, and they end up like getting picks. So, I mean, there are different scenarios with it. I know that, when you get a minority, when you have a minority coach who literally leaves your team, goes somewhere else, and ends up like getting promoted or elevated or something like that, that plays a role. And also, like, just, different things when it comes to players, and their contracts, it might, it also plays a role. I mean, there's several, it's not just one way that it actually happens. It's several scenarios that can get you those compensatory picks. Let's see, not Mike T fan, but he could help the team, especially after Allen was fired. No confidence in the front office. Well, look, I think that as long as you still have Derek Carr on the team, that's not a possibility. I think that if, he probably had Rattler or something like that, or if you brought in another veteran, you probably could explore that, but I don't see that happening, man. I don't see that happening as long as Derek Carr is on the team, because don't seem like dude like Derek Carr very much, so there's that. I think it's a reset, but they try to minimize the impact. I mean, I guess when I'm looking at a reset, I'm looking at it like cutting your losses. Like, for example, with Derek Carr. Like, everybody knows that Derek Carr don't want to be with the Saints, and Saints fans feel the same exact way. They don't want him to be here. Like, for the most part. Like, you probably got a nice percentage of Saints fans that would like to see Derek Carr come back, but it's stuff like that. Like, now you're forced to make a guy be unhappy organizationally. You probably unhappy because this guy isn't happy. He wants to go out here and explore his options. I just don't know, man. I just look at this team, and I just feel like they just need to go ahead and just hit that reset button. Like, I'm okay with you trying to get better. But like I said, when you concede, because that's what you're doing, when you concede and say, okay, we were okay. Like, there's nothing really wrong with this roster. There's no major fix that needs to take place. We just need to stay healthy. Let's get Rath up in here, a well-respected strength and conditioning guy, and let's make sure that we monitoring the steps and the movement and the miles that are being ran during practice with players. Let's really pay attention to analytics and numbers, and let's just make sure that our players are ready for Sunday. I get all that, but I don't know, man. I just look at these teams. I look at how these really good football teams are being constructed. I look at, how Kansas City has been able to continue to have success. I look at how Buffalo continues to have success. I look at how Baltimore continues to have success. It's through the draft. And it's also through making tough decisions and letting guys go that may be cornerstone guys and fan favorites. Like, you can't play the buddy game and expect for you to have like success year after year. TJ, you got to look beyond the results. I don't know, man. I mean, you can look beyond the results for a year, maybe 2. But, now it just sounds like an excuse. TJ, we should be talking to Keenan Allen. He played for Kellen. He's as solid as they come. Look, I like Keenan Allen a lot. I really do. But that ain't the energy I feel like the Saints need to be on at this point. And this is why. Like, it has nothing to do with Keenan Allen. Incredibly talented wide receiver. One of the most underrated wide receivers in the NFL. Been playing out there on the West Coast, most of his career before he went to Chicago. And people kind of, now have given this guy the flowers that he deserves. But the Saints need to get younger. They need to get themselves somebody that kind of fits that mold of a Keenan Allen that's coming out of college. Get yourself a guy that can grow into your system, put him alongside Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, and watch him develop and watch him eat. It is time for you to get your own guy. Like, if you was to sign Keenan Allen, how much success would he be able to give you? How many years will he be able to give you? Maybe 2, 3 tops. You need somebody that we can still be talking about in 2027 and 2028. Talking about, should this guy get a contract extension? The Saints have been missing that guy since Michael Thomas left. It's time for the New Orleans Saints to fill some of these voids that have been missing since a lot of these players have moved on. Like, double-digit sacks. Like, you had that with Trey Hendrickson. You let him go. You brought back, you signed Carl Granderson, and that's cool and all, but Carl Granderson ain't eating like Trey Hendrickson is. Like, you got to be able to fill some of these voids, man. That's all I'm saying. Like, I don't want to keep on, like, for depth purposes, like, let's just say, for example, the Saints didn't have Shaheed and Olave. Let's just say if they just had Olave. Then, okay, we want to bring in Keenan Allen, fine. But I feel like you can get it done with Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. Those guys are going, as long as they're healthy, they're going to make some plays. But you also, this is a really good opportunity for you to bring in your own wide receiver. Like, I would love to see them bring in Jaden Higgins. I would like to see them bring in Teet McMillan. I would love to see them bring in a guy that is that big body wide receiver who has, good catch radius, win those 50-50 ball type of deals, and also demand a double team. Because if he's doing that, Chris Olave is a high-end receiver, 1A, wherever you want to put it. He gonna eat. Like, one of the best route runners that you're going to see. Rashid Shaheed, I mean, he's a burner. And he's not too shabby when it comes to route running in his own right. So you would have yourself 3 young, talented wide receivers that, as long as they stay healthy, you can find success when it comes to the aerial attack. So that's what I feel. It's nothing against Keenan Allen at all. Like, man, like I said, Keenan Allen, one of the most underrated wide receivers in NFL history. I'm going to say NFL history. Like him, Tyler Lockett, guys like that have been doing it for a long time and just kind of flying under the radar. Those are the type of guys that I have an appreciation for, because we seen our own guy who flew under the radar for years, and Marcus Colston, one of the best in the league, never really got his flowers. Keenan Allen is kind of that guy. People know how good Keenan Allen is. When he's on TV in prime time, like, people know that they're going to be able to watch something very special because he's good. But when it comes to the NFL ranks and people always pulling out top 10 wide receivers, his name never seems to come up. And I feel like that's an issue. But we're about to go ahead and switch over to Bleacher Report, folks. I'm going to go ahead and put that link inside of the comments. We'll continue the talks about the Saints free agency. I'll get into, some of the things that I didn't talk about over here. I'm putting the link inside of the chat. So if you're not doing anything, come on over. I want to acknowledge our 80% prime. Thank you very much for the $2. Says I will not support the Doge grifting. Oh man, yeah, it's gonna be I mean, they're gonna have to do something, man. Like they're gonna have to do something that they haven't done in the last few seasons in order for Saints fans to get on board. But I mean, I'm not against all of the decisions that were made. Don't get me wrong. I think that most of them, made sense. But I also feel like you're changing this team around. Philosophies are changing. So I just think that maybe you need to bring some guys in, but maybe this is going to be those guys that they draft. Maybe they are looking for those draft picks to be the catalyst for true change in New Orleans. Comment down below, like and share this video. This has been the State of the Saints podcast. You can follow me on X at TJAY Jones 8. For some of you, I'll see you over on Bleacher Report. Others, till next time, all I got to say is, who dat?
Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
All I got to say is, who dat?